Well, SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena is on that story and joins us live now from Sandton. Sophie, a good morning to you. I think we certainly have heard the highlights of what came out of that all-important talk yesterday, but it really does look like what we're seeing here is members of the various countries represented really starting to shape what the conversation is going to look like in August.
Well, indeed, when you look at the discussions today, but of course, many people were expecting the BRICS nations to talk about the issue of security around the world. The very same topic is likely going to dominate the talks when the heads of state and government hold that important summit later next month. Today we saw ministers and those who are advisors of heads of state and government in the BRICS nation starting the meeting this morning. Yesterday, meeting included the friends of BRICS, as you heard there, Saudi Arabia, and also Iran also talking about joining the BRICS nations. And today the focus is security, cyber security, but security in general. And the representative from Brazil pointed out that this comes at a critical moment where the world is drifting apart and nations are not working together, and the world peace is threatened, and therefore calling for peace. Russia, on the other hand, spoke about how the developed North is trying to impose policies and how people should conduct themselves, including the financial systems and the geopolitics. You have China also talking about the issue of infrastructure, particularly the issue of technology that is being abused. You know that there's a trade war between China and the United States of America. Here you see a battle of two big economies fighting for space in the technology industry or sector. You know that there are also concerns around the issue of the fourth industrial revolution, who is the master, and also the artificial intelligence. On the other hand, India also talking about what they have achieved in terms of developing their technology, but also calling for peace.
I imagine that India being one of those countries really that really faces quite a few, has quite a bit of data, I suppose, where cybersecurity is concerned. How does South Africa then enter this conversation, considering that from a cybersecurity point of view, where other member states are sitting, we might be on a back foot?
Well, the minister in the presidency as the host, she tried her level best to ensure that she's able to accommodate the views of all member countries. But of course, South Africa emphasizing the position that all the development that we see around the world shouldn't be used to suppress other nations, but also highlighting the fact that all these development that we see in terms of technology must contribute towards making a world a peaceful world, but also develop particularly the young people and also develop the economies of member countries of BRICS, but also the world economy in general. Therefore, South Africa focusing on development in terms of what is happening in the sector, and particularly the technology sector.
Yeah, and I know that the summit you're attending there where you are, Sophie, really is preemptive, right, in that in August we will see the heads of state of BRICS convening in South Africa to really take the summit forward. Take us through, I suppose, the timelines now, where we are until we get to that very big day where we see heads of state, what we know now, of course, excluding Russian President Vladimir Putin attending the BRICS summit.
Well, I think for me, when you look at the President Ramaphosa's diary, particularly build up to that BRICS summit as the host and also the chair of BRICS, he will be leaving for St. Petersburg this week or today or tomorrow, I guess, and he will be accompanied by the Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor, and the Minister in the Presidency responsible for also the issues of security. And for me, that is a very important gathering in St. Petersburg, because you'll have some of the heads of state and government of Africa meeting President Vladimir Putin. And you can see that yesterday they released a long article that he wrote about the relationship between Africa and Russia, but also setting a scene for the coming meeting, but also touching on what's likely going to dominate the BRICS summit later next year. We also heard that the president, on the margins of that Russia-Africa summit, will engage President Vladimir Putin in relation to the African heads of state and government leaders who went to Kyiv and also to St. Petersburg to meet President Putin in relation to the peace process in that war. And also the president, also the bilateral between President Cyril Ramaphosa and President Vladimir Putin, and also they are going to talk about the coming BRICS summit. We know that indeed President Vladimir Putin will not be in South Africa, but the Foreign Affairs Minister Sergei Lavrov will be here, a high-powered delegation from Russia, but he is going to participate virtually, and he will address the leaders virtual, and also he is going to address the business summit, and therefore his voice is going to be dominant. And I know, I'm a journalist, I know the media, the international media is going to descend to South Africa, and everybody will be waiting to hear what the Russian Federation President Vladimir Putin is going to say, particularly based on what transpired that led to him not being able to attend this important meeting. You also have the president of China, Xi Jinping, who will be in the country and will use that opportunity also to embark on a state visit in South Africa. And we expect a high-powered delegation of China business and also officials from government, hive of activity. You also have India, that will be also a working visit for the Prime Minister of India. You'll have President Lula. This will be one of his big public appearance or international appearance addressing this big organization, you know, since he took power in Brazil. And he is pushing for strengthening of the South-South cooperation. You know that he was part of the former leaders who were very vocal that if you want to really counter the dominance and the bully North, you have to strengthen the South-South. And therefore, this is something that I expect from him. And of course, China will be talking about development in relation to technology. And Russia, of course, will be talking about the issue of geopolitics, particularly the multipolar world.